want to say a few words about the situation in Minnesota. The death of George Floyd on the streets of Minneapolis was a grave tragedy. It should never have happened. It has filled Americans all over the country with horror, anger, and grief. Yesterday, I spoke to George's family and expressed the sorrow of our entire nation for their loss. I stand before you as a friend and ally to every American seeking justice and peace. And I stand before you in firm opposition to anyone exploiting this tragedy to loot, rob, attack, and menace. Healing, not hatred, justice, not chaos, are the mission at hand.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, as the mainstream media continues to foment division and chaos across this country, we're going to take a look at the latest new Q posts, and we are going to ask the question, why do they want chaos? What are they distracting us from? And what are they afraid of the American people waking up to? We're going to talk about that, and it's very important. So you guys are going to want to stick around to check out that and a whole lot more. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm your host, Craig. Today, we have a big show for you. We're going to cover a lot. But first, look, if you haven't done it yet, please come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications and select all so you get notified as soon as all of these videos get posted. Today, we're picking up right where we left off. 4370 was the last Q post, and we have a bunch of Q posts we're going to go through. And what's really important about today's show, in my opinion, is amidst all this chaos that you're seeing that happening across cities in America, we have these mass riots and all of that. What are we not paying attention to? And why? Remind yourself why we got to where we are. We're going to do that in this episode. So that's something you're going to want to stick around for. Also, just a quick reminder, this video is brought to you in part by Brave Browser. If you guys haven't tried it out yet, you can get it for free. It's an internet browser. It blocks the ads. It makes your internet experience that much better. You can get it for your laptop, desktop, or your cell phone. Download it today and install it and run it, and they'll make a contribution to this channel. So it's a win-win. Check out the Brave Browser today. So this is where we're going to be getting into it. The latest Q post 4371, this Yashar tweet saying that nervous for his safety, Secret Service agents abruptly rushed the president to the underground bunker used in the past during terrorist attacks. Now, this is a New York Times article, and of course you take it with a grain of salt, but remember this, they have a coordinated effort here to frame this in a certain way to make President Trump look bad, right? They're exploiting this violence that has inorganically started across the country via the Antifa terrorists who are setting up this organized chaos, right, across city to city and co-opting and hijacking these peaceful protests, which are in obviously direct opposition to the treatment of George Floyd, which we all agree with. There's nobody disagreeing that it was an awful crime that needs to be addressed and it needs to be stopped. But anybody who's covering up for these people who are running around, you know, lighting things on fire, breaking into stores, looting, committing random acts of violence against people for their skin color in some cases, which is the definition of racist terrorism, by the way. But, you know, that aside, here we are, and this is what, you know, we're looking at from Q. Q says false. Woodshed utilized re-intelligence management monitoring of situations Q. So I guess the Woodshed is the nickname for the underground facility at the White House where the president can move to if he needs to be in a more secure location. It's also the place where you see those photos, I think, of the real-time situation room where the president actually sits and monitors in real time via different communications and links that or what's happening across the world. It can be a specific battlefield. It could be a more broad spectrum of battle. But if you were the president of the United States wanting to be able to see outside through a myriad of different cameras and to have an idea laid out before him of what's happening outside the White House and maybe across the country, he may have went down there to get that input, to have some conversations with either governors or generals or other individuals and possibly the National Guard to coordinate against what seems to be a night of violence across the country. I mean, we already know what the fake news is going to spin it as, but it's not the reality of the situation. So there you go. The next one here that Q wants us to look at is this tweet from Mark Levin, where it talks about there's an insurrection taking place now, anarchy. The governors must send in the National Guard. The president must now lay the legal predicate for potentially sending in the regular army. And then it says all leaders of Antifa must be rounded up ASAP. The citizens in these communities are being terrorized by violent mobs. It's also now a national security issue. And I don't know what people don't understand about this. If you want to live in a society of law and order, you don't want violent mobs roaming the streets, committing random acts of violence, looting, destroying businesses that were built up by most cases, I would say, by local people who live in these neighborhoods who spent their whole life savings to open up a restaurant or to open up a shop or to do what their dream was, and it overnight got destroyed by a bunch of psychotic, violent individuals who are, in my opinion, acting in a terroristic fashion against the population of the United States. And that's what Mark's pointing out here. And he's calling for the leaders to be arrested. Well, yeah, if you're leading a violent terrorist campaign against the United States of America and all of its major cities, you probably should be arrested and taken into custody by the FBI, right? Especially since it's being shown now that this is these people are doing this across borders, which makes it federal, because they're going from one city to the next, and they're putting bricks down, it seems. They're organizing the violence. They're paying people to be instigators, it seems. And this is organized. So people have to wake up to that, because it's just the reality of the situation. And I don't care if you're on the left or the right. Regardless of your political position, you got to be able to say that this is wrong. That these people burning down buildings, these people violently hurting other people, these people roaming the streets in black masks, wearing or carrying baseball bats and Molotov cocktails is not good. It's not acceptable. So I don't care what end of the spectrum your political position is, or any of your alignments, whatever you want to call it. This is wrong. Q says all assets being deployed, people used as pawns, controlled. Q. That's all it is. It's just sad. Q says you are witnessing the greatest coordinated disinformation campaign to ever be launched against the American people. Information warfare, infiltration versus invasion, insurgency, irregular warfare, Democrat efforts to regain power. Q. And then Q says, be strong in the Lord. That's the answer, ladies and gentlemen. Remember that against this evil that we are facing this incredible battle against, this is when we have to be strongest in our faith, and we have to rely on the teaching of our Lord and Savior. So if you guys want to hear more about that, stick around to the end. We do a segment called God's Grace is Greater. And today's segment is going to be pretty special, so I really hope you guys do stick around for it. But this is what we're up against, And I've said this before, and it's not one of those things where I want to be, oh, I told you so. I've been saying it for 2 years straight because I've been trying to warn people, right? To let people know that these people, these criminals who we're going to talk about in a minute here, who are organizing a lot of this chaos and funding it and fomenting it via their, disinfo and propaganda and corruption, that these people would rather destroy this country than be caught or held accountable for the crimes they committed against it, against we the American people. The way they extorted money, the way they laundered it, the way they laundered power through DC, using slush funds, the whole 9 yards. These people, unfortunately, betrayed our country. They betrayed its trust. And, these are their last-ditch efforts against us. Remember, they just have this Netflix documentary that came out about, President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and tells you about how close they were, but it doesn't seem to hit on the fact that President Trump removed Epstein from his club. President Trump reported his behavior to authorities. President Trump was one of the first people to call that guy out as being a creep, right? Because of the incident that took place at Mar-a-Lago that forced President Trump to investigate the situation and then remove him, right? But they don't talk about Bill Clinton's dozens of trips on the Lolita Express. They don't, and if they do, they don't do it in a way that differentiates the two, because they're trying to start a war. And then you have Anonymous coming out and saying, oh, the Russians have the evidence on Trump. All right, well, show me the evidence or shut up, right? Because I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take the projection, the psychological warfare tactics they use where they take what they're the most guilty of, flip it, and accuse you of it. So that's what this is, I think, what he's saying, information warfare. And unfortunately, this is just where we're at. We have to move forward from here and do our best. The Lord will guide us, though. Mark my words on that. If you just seek his wisdom and his guidance, he will show us the way. Now, the next post here Q gives us is this graphic, which seems to show a fake image. Now, when I say fake, I don't mean that MSNBC aired this, because I haven't seen any evidence that MSNBC aired this footage, right? But it is a photo or screenshot from the World War Z movie, and then it's overlaid with this MSNBC graphic, and I think it was created as a joke. But Q shared it with us, saying MSDNC knowingly using fake footage, MSDEN, maybe Dem, pushing America on fire narrative. Why? Enemy of the people. Q. Now, I think this was just illustrating the fact that this is the lengths they'll go to, right? I'm not sure this was an exact example. I think it was taken as a screenshot and then shared with us to show, like, this is the lengths to which they are willing to go. Because they've already done this in other cases, right? You remember the whole COVID-19 using film from something completely unrelated and saying it was in downtown, or it was in America and all that stuff, right? It's the same idea, but you know, a lot of the Anons were very confused about this, and Q readdresses it later, so we'll get to that in a second. But the next one here is this Q post that gives us this Twitter post, right, of this woman who is talking to these kids, I guess, saying these white people, of course, are rolling up, handing black men bricks to throw during the protests. And she, I guess, yells at these kids. So, look, what you're seeing now is organized. And they've read these rules for radicals. They've read all the, Antifa, anti-fascist handbook. They understand that they are organized. They understand they have a political agenda to affect. Q has told us it's an insurgency that they're running. We're trying to run a counterinsurgency to follow law and order and to restore that to our democracy, to get rid of the two-tier justice system, while these people, in a lot of cases, these liberal, immature, dumb, young kids are out there, because they've seen one too many TV shows about, the civil rights movement that's fictionalized and created through Hollywood, and then, propagandized to them as if it's gospel. And look, Martin Luther King would never endorse this kind of movement, these kind of actions. And these people think of themselves as the modern day civil rights liberation of, all people who are oppressed. So it's insanity. It's disgusting. It's anti-American. You have the right to protest, but you don't have the right to hand out bricks so that people can smash windows and destroy businesses and hurt people indiscriminately. You guys, people have to get that through their heads. These people do. Q says, do you see what is happening? Yes, we see what's happening. Now, the next one here that Q wants us to look at is this other incredible video, right? You can see it here where there are these, I don't even know who they are, two young women, right, walking with spray paint, and they're spraying the Black Lives Matter graffiti on the Starbucks, and these two, obviously, other peaceful protesters confront them and say, look, they're going to blame us for it because of the color of our skin, right? And then basically says to them they're not even black women, and they're writing it on the wall. So understand that there are good people out there mixed up in all this who really want justice, who really don't, want the same things that we do, right? A single tier justice system where it's not rules for, corrupt politicians and corrupt policemen and then a different set of rules for all of us. It's the same thing. But the mainstream media wants to try to convince people that we're so separate. And that's why they're so desperate, because they understand that once we connect the dots and figure out that we're all in the same fight against the same corruption that exists, that they exploit against us to manipulate us, man, it's going to be over for them. So, yeah, I mean, I'll leave links to all these if you want to go watch the videos in their entirety. But Q says, do you see what is happening? Yep. Now, the next one here is this Karluska P tweet, right, which has Burgess Owens on Fox News talking about what's happening here. And it's a very insightful clip. I'll play it, and then we'll talk about it.
Salt Lake City, what happened here is not typical. That's not our culture. When I've talked about fighting for the heart and soul of our nation, that's what we're fighting against right now. The heart and soul of our nation is our middle class. It defines our culture. It's where we serve people. We love each other. We come together. What we're up against is Marxism. We have an enemy out there. And what we're seeing right now is the true evil of that. And we have to understand that we find this in most of these blue states where you have governors who have not only shut down businesses for the last, 3 months, don't want to open them up. And then you have these mayors who actually allow these people to come in and just destroy business across the board. These small businesses, where our economy will come back strong, and we have Marxists that are actually up against that. So we have to realize who our enemy is. I'm looking forward to a president looking at these people as terrorists, because that's who they really are, and they need to pay the price for being so.
Burgess, we've seen these protests, which were justified, take a different turn, and it's just outrageous to see this looting and to see these riots. When you first saw that video of George Floyd, and now when you look at the video of all the rioting, the looting, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, we're all together as a country to realize that was a heinous deed done to George. Nothing like that should ever be done to any American here. We have to realize it's not about George anymore. It's about our country. It's about those who hate our nation. And I'm going to be straight up front with you. For those in the Democratic Party, look at your leadership. You have evil being done by your leadership. People want to see hurt and harm to American people, our economy, pain. That's what they do in every single state they live in, and every single city they oversee. We need to make sure that this same party that once has a terrorist arm, the KKK, now has a terrorist arm, the Antifa. The only difference in their covering is their color, whether it be white or black. The covering is different, but it's the same process. So we have to understand who we're up against. And for my Democratic friends out there, realize what your party is doing right now. They're trying to divide us. We cannot stand for this. We cannot stand to lose our American way. And our business owners have to be given an opportunity to come back strong and do what they do best.
I don't think I could have said it any better. You guys saw it right there. He lays it all out. He says, look, you got to reevaluate where you're at. This is the modern day equivalent of the KKK. You have people running around, burning things down, intimidating people, violently hurting people, and it's just a different skin color. Then it was in a different color, right? Then it was white robes. Today it's black robes, and before it was this organized chaos where it was against blacks. Now it seems to be a lot of people, yelling out some pretty racist stuff, inciting hatred based on race against white people. And look, the violence one way and the other, none of it solves any of the problems. And that's what I think Q is pointing us to. And that's what I think Burgess was getting at. We have to come back together as a society, right? We can't let these thugs and terrorists tear us apart. That's what they want. They want to divide us. Yeah, sums it up perfectly. Again, the next one here that Q wants us to look at is this QAnon post, which is of this young gentleman here who tells us all about how he used to be a social Black Lives Matter organizer and was a Ferguson organizer. And he realized very quickly that it was Soros and the Democrats who were paying him to help organize and to create panic and to create violent situations, outbreaks, because they're just using you, right? it is as far as a lot of these immature people at these protests are concerned. And trust me, I watch these videos online. I'm sure you all see them too on Twitter and the rest. A lot of these kids are 12, 14 years old. They're still kids, and they're being manipulated, propagandized, and put out in harm's way to commit acts of violence because it's been socially programmed in them to think that that's a acceptable form of protest. A lot of these young kids don't stand a chance against this kind of organized evil. And that's what this gentleman, I think, is pointing out. So it's worth watching. I'll leave a link to it. It's 15 minutes long. But he calls it, he says it how it is. And it's worth listening to if you're interested in that. Now, Q says, sums it up perfectly. Black community used as pawns. Welcome to the Democrat Party. Unity creates peace. Unity is humanity. Q. Couldn't agree more. Now, the next one here is Q giving us this link to, or actually an anon, I should say, giving us a link to this article talking about Cuomo warning protests could spark coronavirus comeback. Now, I've been talking about this for the last few days here on the channel. I'm glad Q is kind of alluding to this. Look, remember what they did with COVID. It came in. They said it was nothing. They went out in the streets. They had their parties down in Chinatown with Nancy Pelosi and the rest. They let it spread. They let it fester. They let it become a major problem until they couldn't cover it up anymore. And then they flipped the switch, and then they became authoritarians. They put you under house arrest. They locked you up. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost their only source of income. A lot of people lost their businesses. These authoritarians don't care about you. They are politicians. They're going to be just fine no matter what. Because as long as they can continue to subjugate we the people, then they have no problem, right? They'll shut down the economy. They'll do whatever they have to, and they're going to do the same thing with these riots. That's why you see the people on the fake news going, oh yeah, nothing's wrong. They're just protesters. It's like bottles are flying by their head and buildings are on fire. They're just like, yeah, they're just peaceful protesters. Nothing to see here. When in reality, they're letting the violence foment to the point where eventually all of these governors now are going to flip the switch and they're going to become authoritarians in the run-up to the election. They're going to use this as another excuse for mail-in voting. Oh, the streets aren't safe. The ballot boxes aren't safe. Antifa can organize this much organized terrorism in our country. Can we even trust that the voting ballot boxes are going to be safe? This is the narrative they're creating, and it's insanity. I mean, I'm worried about our country and where we're heading, but at least we can recognize it. At least we see through it. And ultimately, we'll see what ends up happening. But Q says this, attempting to establish a new narrative, riots, creating second COVID-19 wave, loss of control, first wave, regain control necessary, revote by mail regarding Democrat state bailouts, regarding economy, unemployment kill, etc. All assets deployed, win by any means necessary, 2020 presidential election Q. Yeah, so now they've realized their virus narrative's fallen apart. So now it's the chaos, riots and looter, anything to put you in a state of fear. And if you don't think that this is being run by this shadow government, that the same people that ran the coup against President Trump, you're wrong. This is organized terrorist activity on American soil against the American people and our duly elected president. That's as simple as it gets. These people are criminals, and they're going to pay the consequence for it. Legally and lawfully, unlike what they want to do to everyone that they ever deal with and have for their whole history of being in control and in power. But the next one here is this post that Ginny Lawrence, and I'll leave links to all of this stuff if you want to go read it. The next one here is this post where Ginny Lawrence says, why does the mainstream media want us divided? Why are they denying Antifa as domestic terrorists, correcting themselves when they even use the word riot? Because they are the enemy of the people, because they're receiving marching orders. Remember this clip of Hillary Clinton.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again. But until then, the only thing that the Republicans seem to recognize and respect is strength.
So they've been calling for this, and you saw it right there in Hillary Clinton's own words. You can't be civil with people who want to see you held to the same level of criminal liability as the rest of the United States is, as far as having a single tier justice system, not one where your husband's the former president and you installed all the FBI lackeys who help you destroy evidence and help cover up the crimes that you committed in possibly giving intelligence to our adversaries abroad, right, and enriching yourself in the process. No. That's what this is. That's the simplest way to put it. And Q says, no civility unless Dems win congressional control. Translation, MSDNC will incite and push division unless Democrat control established. Think pre-midterms. Think pre-2020 presidential election now. Reconcile 1-to-1. The only thing that matters to them is regaining power, prevent public learning of truth, prevent accountability, self-preservation. These people are sick. Q. And we're going to talk about what they want to prevent coming out. And we have a whole list of it that you guys are going to want to stick around for. But here we have the next post. Q tells us to look at this post, which talks about these cops who are just standing here. I mean, you guys can see the clip here. There's two cops. They seem to be just standing there. And there's some lady here with a bottle of spray paint who is spraying anarchist stuff on the side of this building. And I have no idea. You know what's funny, though? I was watching this, and I really believe that it's possible that this person owns this property and is doing this to keep it from getting attacked, right? To show their solidarity with the criminals, the criminal rioters. I mean, it's like camouflage. But yeah, I don't know. But they're writing anarchist stuff, FTP, which means F the police, BLM, Black Lives Matter, and the cops are just standing there. Yeah, no big deal. And now if she owns the business, I mean, great, good for her, freedom of expression. But this isn't. If she doesn't, then these cops are obviously just allowing that to happen. So that's unfortunate. Hugh says, police ordered to stand down by Democrat mayors and Democrat governors. Antifa coordinated safe zones. Q. So do the cops have the mandate to stand down? I don't know. But I can tell you right now that all cops across the country who are for the most part all good people, and I'm not talking about the corrupt cops that do all this crime and what happened with this George Floyd stuff. I'm talking about, the majority of cops out there, the good patriots who love this country, they wouldn't let that happen. In 99% of the cities across this country, but in these major Democrat cities, they've been given stand-down orders. I don't know. Now, the next one here is Anon saying, confirm fake image, and giving us again this image that Q gave us earlier, but a little bit more blown up and saying that it was live and that it was incorrect, basically. Meaning that I've read back into this. I guess somebody thought it was a joke to take the World War Z footage and overlay the MSNBC stuff on it. Then Q reposted it, and they thought that Q thought that it was real, but I think Q knew it was fake, was showing us the extent to which they fake things. And anyway, Q says, confirmed, helicopter rides create confirmed visibility challenges. Good catch. Thank you, Anon's Q. So possibly Q did it unknowingly. But, at this point, would you really put this kind of stuff past them? And at least we correct it when we get it wrong. We correct it first and foremost. I mean, so, look, I'll leave that for you guys to decide. But, yeah, that's pretty much where we're going to wrap it up. One more thing I want to do is go through this. 40 things we're not talking about right now because of these riots. Biden and Ukraine money, Biden and China money, Biden and Tara Reade. And thanks to the Anon who put this together. Biden and dementia, Biden and Flynn, Biden's sabotage of Trump presidency, Obama and Flynn, and Obama's sabotage of Trump's presidency, Judge Sullivan and corruption and activism, Obama and shadow government and sedition treason, voting fraud efforts, illegal immigration, how COVID-19 isn't anything like what was predicted, how the shutdown makes no sense any longer, Trump's effectiveness with growing an economy and making jobs, FISA abuse, Mueller investigation misdeeds, shifts in Pelosi's direction of unjustifiable impeachment effort, congressional insider trading leading up to the pandemic declaration, hydroxychloroquine effectiveness, zinc's effectiveness, and vitamin C effectiveness, dangers of vaccines, Hillary and emails, Hillary and Clinton Foundation criminality, Hillary and Steele dossier, Hillary and DNC emails, DNC and Seth Rich, Comey's role as ringleader and lies before Congress, Brennan's role as ringleader and lies before Congress, Clapper's role and lies before Congress, Tarmac meeting, Fast and Furious, Five Eyes intel abuse, Uranium One, cash payoffs to Iran, Epstein's honeypot and murder, child sex and ritual murder web, and extortion from it, mainstream media collaboration propaganda, controlled judges, prosecutors, local governments, Jesse Smollett, RBG Health, there is strangely no war in North Korea, Iran, Afghanistan, Syria, and China, bonus content, CrowdStrike, Burisma, Feinstein and Chinese chauffeur, Awan Brothers, Google, Twitter, Facebook, Rothschilds, Federal Reserve, World Bank, UN, WHO, Ilhan Omar's many crimes, CIA, and drug cartels, MK Ultra and false flags, Vindman and Sondland and Yovanovitch, it's et al., politicized inspector generals, Valerie Jarrett as Obama's handler, Livin, Huma and Wiener's laptop raised lack of progress with FBI, Fauci, and Gates. Just to name a few things, right? This is why they want chaos, ladies and gentlemen. So remember that. And that's where we're going to go ahead and leave it. A few more things before we go. You should come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media. You can get the word out that way. It helps the channel out big time. Plus, I'm over here on Twitter for now. It seems like my account's finally making a slight progress as far as new followers go. I've got to the 900 mark now, so we'll see if something's let up there. And for now, though, you can find me on Twitter at JustInformYou. I'm also on Twitter at Informed News. I'm also on this cool new thing called Parler, which seems to keep getting all the numbers wrong, which is weird. I think it just needs time to catch up, but Parler's cool. I'm over here on Parler. I'll leave a link at Just Informed Talk. Also, justinformednews.com is the official website, and BitChute.com/JustInformedTalk is the backup channel. Also, if you want to help contribute and keep these channels going, there's Patreon, Patreon.com. It's a crowdfunding website. Your support keeps this channel alive and going against all the demonetization and all the things they've done to try to put it out of business. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it. No, you're helping create content on this channel. Also, I have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. Links to everything that we've talked about here today will be in the description. Now, before we go, we have a segment we do at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And today, I have really important verses I want to share with you, and they're out of the book of 2 Corinthians, and it's talking about a ministry of life or death. And then it gives us direction on how we are to live. And I think these words are so powerful right now to you sitting right there listening, and how you can help. Hear these words. This is the 2 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 14 through 17. It says, "But thanks be to God who always puts us on display in Christ and spreads through us in every place the scent of knowing him. For to God we are the fragrance of Christ among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To some we are a scent of death leading to death, but to others a scent of life leading to life. And who is competent for this? For we are not like the many who make a trade in God's message for profit, but as those with sincerity we speak in Christ as from God and before God." Now, I share that verse with you because I really want everyone out there, all of you, to understand that we do this to spread the message of Christ as far and as wide as we can. That's how we combat this evil. That's how we take on this injustice. This is how we heal our society. This is how we unite. This is how we come back together. We take this incredible message, the gospel of Christ as given to us through these amazing letters and this amazing book, which has so much insight and wisdom, and we apply that to our everyday lives. We live with sincerity. We don't do this for profit. I don't do this to become a rich man. I do this because God has tasked me to be here in this time and do this service so I can bring as many people to his great glorious kingdom as I humanly can. And I want you to do the same thing. You can do it. Just reach out to your brothers and sisters and remind them that God loves them, that Christ died on the cross for their sins. You can save lives. God's giving you that power. Open your heart, say a prayer, start the conversation, and God can do things. And I can attest to this from experience. God can do things in your life that you never thought were possible. But you got to turn your life over to God. You got to be ready to put it all on the line for God. Because like I say, no matter what they do to me or us and all of this, I know one thing is true. I put my life to God. And everything is from God's glory and from His grace and through His grace. And I thank Him every day on my knees, multiple times, for everything He's given me. And I just pray that you guys do the same thing and remember that that's how we defeat this. We will get over it. This too shall pass. So remember, that's how we overcome this evil that exists. But that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. Thanks for watching this episode. Remember, hit that subscribe button and hit it, punch it, tap it, headbutt it, whatever. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. But I'm going to say thanks and keep on watching. Share this, get it out there. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.